Well, we got an update on some features with the Switch 2 and possibly some new hardware before the existing the hardware we know about is out. And things are looking a little sketchy for Bungie's Marathon after some art claims. Welcome to this week's game news show. Let's jump in and just kick it off with Doom the Dark Ages hit 3 million players, 7 times faster than Doom Eternal. Biggest launch in id's history. This is pretty great to see. The game literally just came out and it's already hit 3 million players. Now that's not copy sold, but it's still a huge milestone. Copy sold, I think, will mean more over time, but initial reception hitting 3 million players is a huge milestone. So congrats to the team. The game looks really fun. It really does. I do want to play it at some point. Yeah, good. Congrats, id, and the rest of the conglomeration that just the chain up. Good release. Anyway, let's move on. Nintendo. We got a lot of Nintendo news this week. Announced they'll be returning to Gamescom this year. They didn't announce anything about what they'll be showing, but Stealth over on X posted this little graphic. Nintendo at Gamescom. August 20th through 24th, so that's cool. With the Switch 2 being out, I imagine they'll have quite a bit to show and share. And we're like days away from the Switch 2 being in my hands, so let's see what'll be out by then and what else they'll have to show us. I'm excited. All right, let's move on. Okay, so in a leak, and I don't like covering leaks because it kind of ruins the surprise, but everybody wanted to know this. The resolution comparison of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet running on Switch versus Switch 2. Switch is on the left, Switch 2 is on the right. And I gotta say, the difference is drastic. Now, are there things in place to make the Switch 1 screenshot look as bad as possible? I don't know. Twitter X also crushes image quality and video quality to optimize for, quick loading and everything. With that in place, though, there's a lot to be hopeful for. I'm really hoping we don't see N64 quality models on the map, at least in the distance. It looks like the draw distance is improved quite a bit. It looks like just the higher resolution will be taken, the extra horsepower will be taken advantage of very well. I don't know though. Does it fix all the problems in the game? Probably not. Will that windmill still spin at 10 FPS? Maybe it'll go to 11. I keep making that joke because that windmill is what made me concerned for the entire game. And it sounds stupid, but was I wrong? Was I wrong? Anyway, all right. Let's move on. This is cool. I'm excited to see more comparison shots. I then dive into stuff myself on stream and see. We'll probably do some shiny hunts and some other things just to play around with Scarlet and Violet on the Switch too. So interesting leak. I wonder how they got this. I don't know. Maybe some internal stuff got leaked. I don't know. Hopefully my channel didn't get smacked for sharing this screenshot. But thanks, Centro Leaks. All right. Speaking of the Switch 2, Nintendo has finally cleared up the Switch 2 VRR confusion, confirming the console supports variable refresh rate in handheld mode only. It's from Scott McCrae over at GamesRadar. He says support for VRR in TV mode wasn't entirely ruled out, though. One of the hot new Nintendo Switch 2 features touted in the Switch 2 Direct was variable refresh rate. However, Nintendo didn't make it entirely clear if VRR would be available in both handheld and TV mode. The developer removed the mention of it working on TVs from its websites last month. In a comment to Nintendo Life, a Nintendo rep told them Nintendo Switch 2 supports VRR in handheld mode only. The incorrect information was initially published on the Switch 2 website, and we apologize for the error. The website followed up with Nintendo to ask if the mode could be coming for docked play down the line, but it was met with a "we have nothing to announce on this topic." That isn't a denial, so hopefully it means VRR will come eventually. Which, that's my thing. Like, I feel like maybe the feature just isn't ready for TV compatibility. There's probably something else to work with. They go to talk in the article about the PS5. Notably, the PS5 also has VRR, but unlike the Switch 2's TV mode, it wasn't available at launch, instead arriving 18 months after the system launched. It could be a similar situation for the Switch 2, although it would be great if it doesn't take as long. I don't think it will, but it might. And then they talk about what VRR is. So here's what I think. I think the feature matters to those that already utilize it with existing hardware, have a monitor or TV that supports it. I just think if you have a 120 hertz TV, you're gonna want that mode anyway. So the variable refresh rate mode might come into play, but it might not. You probably don't even notice if you have it on. So I just think console gamers getting some of these features, myself included, just don't notice some of it. Fortnite running in 120 frames per second on my Xbox Series S, I don't notice it. I like it. I turn it on. I want it to do those things. I just don't think most people are going to notice. But it's nice that Nintendo at least cleared things up so we don't go in at launch and go, hey, where's this feature that the website said? And then we go check the website and it's gone. Then it doesn't say it anymore. So, people are all over this stuff now. Nintendo is not going to get away with anything this console cycle. Anything they do, we've seen the changes to the terms where they can brick your Switch, which aren't that different from the old terms, to be honest. They're not great. I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just saying companies have been doing this stuff for years. But then, now we've got expensive games, game key cards. Like, all of the drama around the Switch 2 is because people are persistent and there's somebody's constantly combing through these details. So good catch, I guess, on this stuff. Hopefully that variable refresh rate comes sooner to appease those people, but I just think it's a small group right now. I don't think everybody has access to it. Anyway, let's move on. Speaking of the Switch 2 yet again, Switch is reportedly partnering with Samsung to make Switch 2 OLED consoles and processors. According to reports, Nintendo and Samsung are teaming up to develop the Switch 2. Not only is an OLED console already being discussed, but Samsung is already making the processors for it. Switch 2 is a vastly superior version to the previous version. It boasts 4K HDR and 120 FPS, and games already look far better and smoother. We know now Samsung was selected to develop the console's processor, and the company is also pushing to develop OLED panels for a new line of Switch 2 consoles. So, according to Bloomberg, Nintendo company has turned to Samsung Electronics Company to make the main chips for the Switch 2, a move that may help the Japanese company ramp up production of the gaming console enough to sell a higher than projected 20 million units by March 26. Given the original Switch's current lifetime sales, it's probably wise to ensure as many units can be manufactured as possible. Samsung has skipped a word, can't read. Samsung has a proven and long-standing track record of making electronic devices. The report goes on to say the Korean company has also pushed for OLED panels to be used when Nintendo refreshes the Switch 2 in the future, another person said. The original Switch eventually received a stylish OLED line after launch. This could make the ultimate Nintendo Switch 2 machine with terrific refresh rates, buttery smooth performance, and unbelievable graphics. It's best not to think about how much the device would cost, but an option will be welcome for Nintendo fans. Would you buy a Switch 2 OLED console? I might. I don't play my Switch 2 in handheld mode very often, but with the Switch 2 launching, maybe I might. If there was an OLED option. I just think it's interesting. We don't even have the OG unit out, and we're already talking about the OLED. So, Nintendo Switch 2 Pro win? Let's just go ahead and start that up. Let's just go ahead and complain about everything we're getting. No, I'm just kidding. It's interesting. Samsung's like, hey, let's go ahead and get that OLED model out. I don't think they do it this year. Maybe next year, but it would probably be 27. It'd probably be 2027 before we see a Switch OLED, Switch 2 OLED, Switch 2 Lite kind of situation. If they did, I would like them to introduce a Switch 2, docked situation where it's just the dock is the console. You can still put your controller, your Joy-Con on the side to charge it, but it's a TV only console. Do that this time around, Nintendo. I think that would be good. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see. Can they get production up enough to justify releasing an OLED model? Would it sell at launch? Absolutely. People eat this stuff up. Put a special edition on it. Put a Pokemon on it. Animal Crossing, anything. This stuff is about to fly off the shelves. Scalpers are about to just have a heyday with all this stuff. Anyway, I'm not trying to be negative. I know what happens when Nintendo launches new hardware, and I'm thankful that I got my pre-order in, but I know there's a lot of people that are concerned about even just being able to buy one a month or two after launch, and hopefully it doesn't get that bad. Anyway, let's move on. All right, let's talk about Hyrule Warriors. Switch 2's Hyrule Warriors will delve into Zelda lore that fans have been wondering about. I thought this was cool. It's from GameSpot. No. Yes, GameSpot. Nintendo is billing, let's see, who wrote this? Kevin Knezovic. Nintendo is billing Switch 2's upcoming Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, that's the title, I totally forgot, as the story leading into Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, giving players the chance to participate in the imprisoning war that occurred during Hyrule's ancient past. According to developer Koei Tecmo, the game will also delve further into the lore and characters from this mysterious time period. This game takes place during the Imprisoning War, which is shown in fragments in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Koei Tecmo's Yosuke Hayashi said during Nintendo's latest Creator's Voice video. In this Hyrule Warriors game, you'll see how the people of Hyrule contended with the threat of the original Ganondorf. Though the war is the focal point of the story, Age of Imprisonment will also offer a deeper look at Hyrule itself. As a story that you can only fully experience here, it doesn't just depict the battles of the Imprisoning War via a Warriors game. It also shows life in the Kingdom of Hyrule after Princess Zelda is sent back in time. Sorry, Koei Tecmo producer Ryota Matsushita explained. There's a whole video to watch. I should probably link it. Anyway, moreover, the game will shed light on some mysterious characters from this time period. As previously confirmed, King Rauru and Minoru will both be playable characters. But Matsushita teases that players will also get to know the four masked sages from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That's cool. That was cool about Age of Calamity. You got to know the four characters originally, a little better. Their backstories were a little more fleshed out, which is awesome. Like previous Warriors games, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is a large-scale action game that pits players against hundreds of enemies at a time, with more appearing on the battlefield than before thanks to Switch 2's added horsepower. Switch 2 has made it possible to include lots of enemies in our Warriors games, Matsushita explained. At the same time, it was also important that you could play with higher frame rates than the Nintendo Switch system. We were able to achieve that with this game, Hayashi added. Age of Imprisonment is slated to arrive this winter, while Switch 2 will launch itself on June 5th. So I'm looking forward to this game. I need to finish Age of Calamity. We were streaming it a long time ago, and I just let it go. That's something we could pick up in the meantime while we're waiting on new stuff to launch. I would be interested to see how Age of Calamity runs on the Switch 2 and the original Hyrule Warriors, because I don't remember them getting too framey, but would the extra horsepower or just extra overhead help? I don't know. They haven't announced any sort of features for Switch 2 features for this game, so I shouldn't expect anything, but it might be nice to see. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it, though. This is going to be good. I like the extra story. I like that we're at a point now where Zelda is big enough to keep telling, expanding one game's story further and further. And so, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, their spinoffs, I think that's been cool. And, I'm excited to play it. Now, let's move on. All right, Fortnite news. Fortnite is back on the App Store in the US on iPhones and iPads, and on the Epic Games Store and Alt Store in the EU. It'll show up in search soon, and then there's a link to download it. This game was delayed pending post-court ruling to force Apple to allow Epic to put Fortnite on the App Store. The app got submitted by Epic Games and then was delayed and then denied for something, and then now it's been approved apparently because they fixed whatever the problem was. I think Apple is just taking their sweet time on this particular release. But yeah, so are you going to download it? I don't know. I'll probably put it on the iPad and check it out. I don't know if I'll play it on my phone. I'd rather have a controller or a mouse and keyboard, or just something with physical buttons. I mean, give me an arcade stick, controller for Fortnite, and I will play it more than I will use a touchscreen. But hey, I think this is a big deal because I didn't think this would ever come back. I didn't think Apple would ever be in a position to even being forced to. Like, I did not see that coming at all. So this is a big deal for any kind of publisher or developer that's had trouble getting your app on a specific store or storefront that exists. It's a big deal. So we're going to keep paying attention to this. But after that delay, it's good to see the game out. You know, I play a lot on this channel and in my free time. I don't know if I'll play on mobile. I don't like touchscreen controls, but I'll download it and check it out for sure. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of rewards like there were when the Epic Games Store launched last summer. Anyway, let's move on. Speaking of Fortnite, Fortnite faces unfair labor practice charge for use of AI Darth Vader voice. I was going to talk about the AI Darth Vader voice in a separate thing, but this is a good time to talk about it. This is from Insider Gaming. Ryan LeMay writes, the Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, filed an unfair labor practice charge against Epic for using AI for Darth Vader's voice in Fortnite. As part of Fortnite Chapter 6, Season 3, Fortnite added Darth Vader as an NPC enemy that can be defeated on the map. After taking down the iconic Star Wars villain, players can recruit him to their team. While Darth Vader's in your squad, Epic Games utilized AI technology that allows players to converse with him. Epic Games added restrictions on what he says and what he will respond to, but it didn't take long for players to discover loopholes and get him to say slurs and other ill-sounding phrases. The development team rushed to patch the voice lines, but that's not the only issue that arose. On May 19th, SAG-AFTRA released a statement. Fortnite's signatory company, Llama Productions, chose to replace the work of human performers with AI technology. Unfortunately, they did so without providing any notice of their intent to do this and without bargaining with us over appropriate terms. Neither Epic Games nor Llama Productions has responded to the charge. This is a developing story and will provide an update when new information comes out. So, all of that, to summarize, is that a union is mad that a gaming company used AI to voice a character as iconic as Vader. Is wild to think about, but I have learned, and I don't have a source on me, so it's kind of a trust me bro moment. I know what I read. Apparently, James Earl Jones' estate, his family is totally okay with this. I would guess Lucasfilm and Disney are okay with this. Obviously, Epic is okay with this. The other argument I have is what terms would be like, what you can't use a human to do what we're doing at what Fortnite is doing at this scale, what we're seeing done. There's no human possible that could have done this. Like that would require recording like everything in the known English language and maybe beyond for a system to piece responses together. Whereas we have generative AI, and I'm not a big fan of it being used in a creative space, but in this sense, I mean, this is an interaction that you would never get without generative AI. Like there's no reasonable way to make this work. And if there is, let me know. Like correct me. But the things I have seen people like talking with Darth Vader in Fortnite about, some of it hilariously inappropriate, some of it just hilarious, a lot of it really sad. I think it's legendary. Like, this is crazy. This is probably the best use case for AI in games. You know, build that voice profile, pay for the likeness, right? Which I'm assuming Epic and Disney are doing. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. But somebody's getting paid. I don't think the Screen Actors Guild has any say in this. You know, this is beyond the scope of what a human actor would be responsible for as an actor. You know, now terms should be in place for contracts that your likeness on a character, you should be compensated for that. And I'm sure that's what's happening here. I don't know, but I'm sure that's what's happening here. But I just thought this was wild. Like, AI Vader is crazy, and this could take games like single player RPGs to a whole different level if done correctly and with respect to voice actors that lend their voices to characters. I acknowledge, like, people need to be paid for their work and their likenesses. I'm not saying that's the issue, but I just think it's wild that the Screen Actors Guild thinks they could, like, thinks they had any say here. There's just no way there was anything they could have done, to leverage a person in this role. Like, it's just not possible. But anyway, let's move on to our next topic before I get too soapboxy on this. All right, let's talk about Bungie. Marathon is not in a good spot after. Well, let's read the article from Tom Henderson at Insider Gaming. Morale at Bungie is reportedly in free fall over Marathon. That's not good. A new report has revealed what current employees allegedly think of Bungie's current situation when it comes to Marathon. The new report comes from Paul Tassi at Forbes and comes following another brutal week for Bungie after an artist named Anti-Real accused Bungie of plagiarizing her art for its upcoming game Marathon. It was an accusation that Bungie soon admitted to and put the blame on a former employee. I don't believe that for a second, with the studio saying they had reached out to the artist to do right by them. But unfortunately, Bungie's response didn't do too much in the way of changing the community sentiment, as people are now questioning Marathon's entire art direction and slating the company for repeatedly ripping assets from artists. This is allegedly the fourth time Bungie has done this in 5 years. Yes, there's a lot of instances, and I say a lot. There's a lot more than there should be instances of this happening with Destiny 2. And maybe Destiny 1. I don't know. Allegedly, just to be safe. According to the new report, employee morale at Bungie is currently in free fall, and the vibes have never been worse. What a Gen Z situation. Guys, the vibes here are terrible. Don't work here. Everyone has the same concerns about what happens to Bungie as the studio of Marathon bombs, which is something they absolutely cannot afford. As for what this all means for the future of the game is currently unclear, but according to the report, there's currently no plan to delay the game from its September release date, or at the very least, that has not yet been conveyed to developers, although it could be being discussed higher up. The report does outline that some changes were already made to the Bungie marketing plan, though, with Bungie pulling the plug earlier this month on a new trailer that was slated to be revealed in June. Yikes. I bet that trailer had a bunch of that art in it. As for what all this means for Bungie and Marathon is uncertain, but the writing on the wall seems to suggest that at the very least, the game needs a substantial delay to give Bungie the time it needs to take things back to the drawing board. Marathon was already going to struggle, but after this recent controversy, it's impossible to see how Bungie will turn things around in the next couple of months. And that's kind of the biggest issue, right? Bungie and Sony are kind of on the hook here. Mostly Bungie, Sony being the parent company. I don't know. I really don't know. I've not been too interested in Marathon. The game did not, when it was first shown, it was like, ooh, what's this? Something new. And then they announced it was Marathon. I was like, okay, cool. And then it was announced as an extraction shooter. And I saw gameplay. And I'm just, it doesn't look like it's for me. That's okay. But I don't see a lot of positive sentiment around it. All the art issues and other issues aside, I just don't see a lot of positive sentiment around this game. And it's a shame because I'm sure guys, devs at Bungie have worked their rear ends off to make the best game, that they can make. But like, if this is it, like, a lot of people aren't thrilled about this. Anyway, let's move on. We got more to talk about. Former Marathon developer says working on game was toxic. Yikes. You don't ever want to hear that. This is from Mike Straw at Insider Gaming. A former Bungie employee who worked on Marathon during his time at the studio says that working on the game was extremely toxic and humiliating. In a post on social media, a former developer known online as Spirited, who worked on the engineering side of the game, said that he felt for those still working on the game at the studio. Working with engineering/Marathon leadership was extremely toxic and humiliating, he said. I won't speak about the rest, but Bungie leadership needs to be gutted completely. Yikes. Jensen worked on a team that developed the online services for the game. He added that the team was dissolved in layoffs that came only weeks after he had left Bungie. Prior to his time on Marathon, he worked on Destiny. Jensen didn't want to go into more detail and made sure to add that his posts were in his own opinions and that he wasn't interested in making statements that would violate an NDA, which makes sense. Total respect. Marathon has been in the headlines for the wrong reasons lately, as the game's accused of stealing artwork, morale is low, currently free fall, with the internal feeling around the game being at its lowest point. Everyone has the same concerns. We read all that. All right, so, that's not helping. Apparently, working on the game is toxic. I don't know what toxic means in this sense. Are people just mean and uptight? Are people being disrespected? Very likely. I don't know. I don't. With morale being low, I'm sure everyone's upsetty spaghetti at Bungie right now. I hate it. I hate to hear this kind of stuff because video games are supposed to be fun. Making video games is not an easy task, but there still should be an element of joy and passion that go into it, and it doesn't seem to be like that. That's the case here. So will Marathon come out? Ooh, I don't know. I don't think they'll pull the plug on it. I think that price point's gonna be real important though. The fact that they're charging money for this at all in the current state of shooters and extraction shooters and everything else that's going on, I just don't get it. They could have made a cosmetic microtransaction filled extravaganza with this game, and instead they're going for a premium product with probably still a battle pass and a seasonality and skins and stuff. So I mean, I don't know. I didn't see much of the menus and stuff in the gameplay that I watched. I was watching gameplay, and I mean, yikes. I don't know. I talked about this on what used to be called the Crystal Core Radio podcast last week with Ginger Prime and the rest of the guys, and we all kind of felt the same way. Like, who is this game for? Is it going to do good? We don't know. We really don't know. I hate to see Bungie fall so hard on their face, but some say it's deserved at this point. I'm not one of those people, but I've heard sentiments towards that. They're getting what they deserve. Anyway, let's move on. All right, Randy Pitchford, who we all know from Gearbox, is very excited for the Switch 2 and even more excited to bring Borderlands 4 to this incredible magical machine, which is wild. So somebody responded to that, said, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant increase on the price tag. You're the CEO. You have some say with the price when it comes to your publisher. To which Mr. Pitchford, always foot in mouth, responds, A, not my call, and B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school working minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach, and I found a way to make it happen. Bro, tone deaf, dismissive, bruh. This is the most Randy Pitchford response we could ask for. The man is legendary for just being absolutely tone deaf when it comes to his own audience. So wild to see this nonetheless. Here we are. My flabbers are gasted, everybody. Like, I don't understand. How do you make this statement? The real fans will find a way to make it work. What if one of your, what if I just liked it and then now I see this, I'm like, you don't need my money that bad. I mean, I've got to make decisions on how many times I spend $80 on a game in a year, and I'm being increasingly led to wait for the Steam sale for Borderlands 4. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, all right, I got one more story to cover. This is over on PC Gamer from Tyler Culp. This has been heartbreaking news for our entire team. LEGO nukes Bionicle Fan game from orbit after ignoring it for 8 years. The developers have rebranded and started work on a new original game. So this is wild though. I've seen stuff on this Bionicle Fan game. Some clips went around for a while. I don't know, maybe a year ago. Dang, Base Guru. Sheesh. Alright, anyway, after 8 years of development, an ambitious LEGO Bionicle Fan game has been forced to shut down. Bionicle Mask of Power was months away from having a playable demo, according to an update by developer Team Kanoe. But it had to be cancelled because LEGO stepped in to ruin the fun. LEGO Group has LEGO Group has asked our team to shut down our project in its entirety and remove Bionicle Mask of Power from the public eye, a statement on the game's site reads. The developers say they did everything they could to make sure the project was in good standing with the LEGO Group, by filling every mention of it with disclaimers that it was an unofficial game. Masks of Power is even mentioned on LEGO's official gaming podcast. I didn't know LEGO had an official gaming podcast. Unfortunately, it seems like the LEGO Group's stance on fan-created media has changed, Team Kanoe said. While we can only speculate as to the exact reason why they've asked us to remove the game at this time, What we suspect is that our project was too easy to mistake for an official product. Despite there being a number of official Bionicle games, Google searching for Bionicle game brings up Masks of Power at the top results. An average person seeing our game for the first time could easily think that it was an official game at first glance, Team Kanoe said, and no amount of disclaimers we could put up would be able to change that. The demo, which was supposed to be shadow dropped in August, won't see the light of day. However, Team Kanoe has released a full walkthrough video of what it would have included on YouTube. The footage is even more impressive than what was shown in 2023. Its intricately detailed jungle environments and weighty, almost Souls-like combat are extremely impressive for a fan game made with Unreal Engine. It's a huge step up from the janky Bionicle Flash games I used to play as a kid. LEGO would have been better off hiring them if you ask me. It won't be all for a waste, though. At the close of the statement, the team announced that it will take everything it learned to develop an original game called Project Rustbound, and with it, the studio has been renamed to Unmasked Games. Unmasked said it won't have anything to share about the new game for a while, but the metallic logo suggests it probably won't be very far off from what it put together in Masks of Power. So, what was originally just kind of depressing news is turned around for the positive. I hate when fan games get shut down like this, especially for like a dormant IP like Bionicle, which millennials rise up. We know the impact Bionicle had on all of us as teenage boys and maybe some teenage girls. I don't know, but I loved the Bionicle stuff as a kid. Like, it was amazing, and they really missed an opportunity here. This could have been awesome. Lego could have brought the Bionicle brand back for an audience that has matured past, but not entirely past, buying Lego kits and assembling them, because I would totally buy some Bionicle if they hit the shelves again. But gaming is huge. Like, we could have got it would have been cool if Lego Group had just picked them up and been like, hey, finish making the game, we got your back. But I'm curious what Unmasked Games has. I'm glad they were able to turn it around quick. Rebrand, maybe that was in the works to begin with. This was like their kind of inaugural project as a team, and then they form an official company and make an actual like licensable game for themselves that can make them some cash. We'll see. Anyway, that does it for the game news, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed it. I have had a blast talking with everybody. What do you guys think about any of these articles? Do you think Randy Pitchford is off base here? Everybody does. Don't answer that question. But what do you think? Is Marathon coming out? And what's up with the Switch 2? Like, are we going to be missing some features at launch or not? There's a day one update that we're going to have to get. So there's that. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you're watching for the first time, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching for the 18th time, this is the 18th game news you've ever watched, hit the like button anyway. But I love you guys. It's time to go play video games now, and I will catch you all later. See ya.